What's up, YouTubers, and welcome to Blazebeat Racing. Today I'm going to be doing an update on this 1997 Mitsubishi 3000 GT. I did briefly introduce this car in one of my previous videos in summer, the one with the special edition 280ZX. Talked a little bit about it, and at that time we're in the process of doing an engine rebuild, 6G27, and the pretty interesting story behind this car. It used to be mine, it's my dad's now. We've had it running and driving for over a week now. Just broken the engine, and it's got a stage 1 cam now, and it's running real good. The car is really clean. We just started doing pulls and everything's working great, and we're really happy with it. So I think my dad did a really good job. And so anyway, I'll be talking about the car a little bit and how it got to this point where we need to rebuild the engine. So it's a beautiful looking car. My dad polished it, and he'll probably do another stage of polish on it. But yeah, this thing just pops, especially in the snow. I'll do a quick startup. Still the old gauge cluster, because it did come with the single cam engine. Now it's got the twin cam, the good engine. This is a base model. It's not even the all-wheel drive, so it's a huge improvement now. I'd say the car's probably got like 240 horsepower at this point. So here's the story. It was just over 3 years ago, and I only had the 280ZX, and I also had a 76 Austin Mini. And I didn't want to drive either of those in winter, so I was looking for a winter car, and this car popped up for $2,500. That's right in my price range, and it seemed like a really good deal. It was really clean. The owner said he was a mechanic, and then he maintained the car well, and so I had to go to work, but I sent my dad to go test drive it and check it out and put down a deposit on it if it's good. So he ended up actually doing that, and the car checked out, so he put down a deposit while I was at work, and I was just super stoked about it, and so was my dad and brother. And the next day I went out there with him, with my dad, and picked up the car. Didn't even test drive it, I just gave him the money. We got back in our vehicles and started the journey back, and I noticed right away the clutch was super stiff. Something did not feel right, but I just figured, hey, maybe it's like a stage 3 clutch. But I did not like that, and it was quite a workout driving through town. It was a 1 hour drive back, but driving through the bigger city where we got it from, I was pretty dang hard on my knee. Quite a workout anyway. But other than that, it was working pretty good, and we got to the higher speed area. It's like a newer highway that it's pretty fast, but anyway, I was just going the speed limit, and there's some big hills on this highway, and any car with power will have no problem just hauling up them, but I was going up one of them, and then suddenly the car just lost power. It felt like it lost half the horsepower going up the hill, and I knew something was wrong. But the gauges were checking out, and I really didn't want to get it towed, even though I probably should have at least pulled over. But my dad was ahead of me in the Jeep. I flashed the lights at him, he didn't notice. So I mean, I'm not gonna just park there and just wait. Like, I didn't have a cell phone or anything, so I just kept it floored, and it was going 10 under the speed limit, barely making it up the hill in 4th gear, and made it to the next town, the halfway point, we stopped at the Superstore, and my brother was there with his 240SX. Ran into him there. He had a midnight purple kitted out Nissan 240SX. One of the nicest 240SXs I've ever seen, not gonna lie. It's really unfortunate he had to sell that car, but he finally got a replacement for it. You'll see it later in the video. So my brother and I decided to head back out on the highway and cruise home together in our sports cars. And I mean, that sounds awesome and all, but my car was having issues. I just wanted to get it home, really. And my dad wasn't there, so he couldn't check it out either. I didn't know like what it could be, and we had no tools with us or anything, obviously. So we're back on the highway. My brother, he has no idea my car is seriously struggling, but I've got it almost floored like the whole way, just trying to go the speed limit, trying to not embarrass myself in this beastly looking red flashy car, and everybody's looking at these two cars that look like they're straight out of Fast and Furious. My brother starts toying with me, like trying to provoke me into racing, like he wants to show off a little bit, you know? I can't blame him. I mean, can't lie, I probably would have if the car hadn't had issues. But then other cars start pulling up and they start trying to initiate a race between us. They start revving their engines up and honking their horns, trying to like count down to a race, and I'm just shaking my head like, no, this isn't gonna happen. And my brother just smiling at me, like kind of chuckling, like, what are you doing, dude? You're not yourself right now. And there's even a Civic with some girls in it videotaping us, and the thing is smoking blues, and they're just revving, and everybody's having a good time. Anyway, so we made it home. I got out of the car, everybody's all smiles, and then I'm like, no, there's something seriously wrong with this car. It feels like it has no power. Like, this doesn't feel right, even for the single cam engine, which is supposed to have 165 horsepower, which is way lower than it should be for a car like this. But that's what this car came with. It wasn't the all-wheel drive turbo. It wasn't the 6G27, which is what's in it now, is the actual V4 engine. So my dad was still really interested in the car. He took it for a test drive. He thought there was nothing wrong with it, and he had said that he would take the car off my hands. If I didn't want it, then he would just pay the same price for it, which is, I mean, still a good deal, like probably under $1,000 of what it seemed to be worth if it had been running good. But so he took it off my hands, and I'm like, I don't think it's all there, man. There's something wrong with it. But he thought he could fix it up. I mean, it's a good shot that he could, but he took it to the mechanic. The mechanic checked it out, and two of the spark plug wires were actually corroded to the point where they weren't even providing spark anymore. So the car had been running on 4 cylinders. That's what happened when I felt the huge power loss suddenly, is the two spark plug wires finally kicked the bucket, and I had been driving it without combustion on those cylinders for like 40 minutes. So that definitely could cause some damage. And so basically, since they're not combusting, the gas is getting in there and it's causing issues with lubrication, obviously. So by the time the mechanic got the spark plug wires and spark plugs replaced, one of the two pistons, the piston rings, wasn't able to withstand combustion, wasn't able to withstand the pressure, and the piston rings fried, the cylinder got scarred, the piston was shot. Like, I basically fried a piston and the engine was cooked. And it was my dad's car at that point, so I felt bad for him. He did happen to find a 6G27 for sale for $500. The guy had taken a video of it. We don't know when the video was taken, but it sounded great, and the guy said there was nothing wrong with it. So we had that shipped over. My dad put it in the car. As soon as we fired it up, it was making loud knocking noise. Like, we weren't sure what the heck that sound was, but it did not sound good. It sounded like the rod bearings were gone or something. Something sounded terrible, and we took it for test drives and stuff. It felt pretty good, but it wasn't running smoothly, and it lacked a bit of power, and the rod bearings must have been going on it. So anyway, did a lot of research on it, and then my dad decided that the engine needs a full rebuild, and after inspecting the internals, he was right. The rod bearings were definitely going on this thing. But so this summer he finally bought all the parts he needed. He took his time with it, and finally we have the finished product, and the car's come a long way. It finally feels like it's a reliable car. And so yeah, that's the story. And hopefully I didn't draw it out too much for you guys, but hopefully you found it enjoyable. But yeah, there'll be videos of there'll be dash cam videos coming up with this car in spring and summer. Probably do some back road drives with this thing. I might put an exhaust video at the end of this clip, but I just wanted to show you guys. Here's the little surprise. And some of you guys that follow me on Instagram already know about this thing, but don't comment what it is in the comments. I want people to guess. What do you think this car is? This is our latest project. It's a classic little car. And this is going to be really cool. And my brother and I picked this sucker up. Give me your best guesses, boys. Big plans for that car. For now, we're just doing rust restoration, and the engines it's rebuilt, and it's got a lot of performance parts, stage 2 cam, etc. And we'll be inspecting the engine before we run it, because it hasn't been run in like 20 years.